Welcome back to the Spin Cycle Podcast, everybody. I'm Kaylee Fretz. Today on the show, the Vuelta is here this weekend. Dane Cash, are you excited? I can see the excitement through the screen.
I've been waiting all year, right? I mean, this is the big one.
Disqualifications at the Tour de Romandie, and Mike Woods is retiring. Bon chance, Mike Woods. Let's get to it. Welcome back. Dane, I already mentioned you. How are you?
I'm great. I'm looking forward to this week.
It's good to see you. And Kit Nicholson. Welcome, Kit.
Hello.
And back on the show, after quite a while, Abby. How are you, Abby?
Hi, thanks so much for having me.
You are very welcome. I am not Scott Simon. You don't have to say that when you come onto the podcast. I hope our listeners out there caught Abby on NPR, because I will say that as the child of two left-leaning American parents, that was maybe my mother's proudest moment, is when I first got on NPR, and I'm assuming it's the same for you, Abby.
My mom might have cried, immediately texted everyone she's ever known, will know, or has come into contact with, and then spent a good couple days going, and then was like, every single time someone messaged her, like one of our neighbors when I was a kid messaged her and was like, oh my gosh, I was just woodworking in the basement and heard Abby on NPR. And it was like, yeah, definitely one of the highlights of my mom's life was me being on NPR for 3 minutes.
The cultural cut through is significant when you get on NPR. For those who don't know, Abby was on All Things Considered shortly after the Tour de France Femme wrapped up, right?
Yep.
Yeah, great show. We love NPR. Anyway, let's get into our show and our podcast. We got a fair amount to talk about today. Let's start with the Tour de Romandie. We're gonna get to Vuelta. We got a big Vuelta preview later in the show, but let's start with the Tour de Romandie, because Abby, you were kind enough to join us to talk specifically about this, because it was on Friday. I woke up to a kerfuffle. I woke up to much chat happening all over on the WhatsApp, on the Slack. All sorts of things were happening. Abby, can you succinctly describe, as best you can, what on earth happened on Friday?
Yeah, so basically a week before the race started, the UCI announced that they would be testing some GPS trackers at the women's 3-day Tour de Romandie Feminine. The idea behind them is a safety. It's a podcast, quotes, safety.
Air quotes safety.
Yeah. Yep. And they wanted to test them before they implemented a rule at the World Championships coming up in Rwanda, where all the riders will have to race with a GPS tracker on their bikes. And this is in response to the death of Marielle Fur at the World Championships in Zurich last year, the junior rider who went off the road and then was not found for some time, which is just, the whole situation there was horrific. And so, yeah, I think on the surface, the GPS trackers, the announcement that they would be introducing these GPS trackers for riders was maybe one of the few great situations. However, it's much deeper than that. So when they announced that they would have one rider per team wear these GPS trackers at Tour de Romandie, the Velon teams, which is a whole nother layer to all of this, contacted the UCI with some concerns about the lack of input from major stakeholders in cycling, basically the teams. And the UCI said, no, you have to wear them. I'm going to just kind of sum it up, because it's there's
a lot of paraphrasing happening here.
Yeah. There's so much information. It's really hard to condense it. So then in the days leading up to the race, there was back and forth going on between the UCI and the teams. The riders from said teams flew to Switzerland. The day before the race, they were told they wouldn't be able to race because the UCI had disqualified the teams for basically saying, we're happy to use the trackers, but the UCI has to be in charge of choosing a rider to put the tracker on whichever bike and then installing, uninstalling, charging overnight, reinstalling, etc. The UCI was like, no, we're not going to do that. You're disqualified. And so the riders were all told the night before, they had to go to the race anyway the next day. And the next day there was this back and forth of at 10 o'clock, they were racing. At 10:45, they weren't racing. 15 minutes later, they were racing again. And then they weren't racing. And then some head of the government of the region Romandie called David Lepartien and was like, can they please race? And he was like, no. And so then they required the riders to go to the start of the time trial. Right. It was a time trial on Friday, so that they could be formally disqualified, because if they had DNS'd, then the race would be it wouldn't be qualified as a World Tour race anymore, because only 63 riders started. So they had to somehow work around the fact that if they disqualified all 5 of these teams, originally 6, but AG Insurance Soudal, either got out of it or caved, whichever side of the fence you want to be on, that it wouldn't be a World Tour race anymore with only 63 starters. So it was a whole mess involving the UCI, a handful of teams that all are associated with Velon, that ended up with a handful of riders, multiple handfuls of riders, 5 teams, EFLE Cannondale, Visma Lisa Bike, Little Trek, Picnic Post Nell, and Canyon Strams onto Crypto, all being disqualified. That meant that a lot of the favorites to take the overall were also disqualified, because Little Trek came in with probably the strongest team in the race, and Canyon Strams onto Crypto had Cash Neodoma Finney. So yeah, it was a huge blow to the race, to the riders, and the ensuing chaos that unfolded was a back and forth between the UCI basically like digging their heels in, and the teams making a statement that they're all for rider safety, but this was, to put it in the words of Gracie Elvin on the Wheel Talk podcast, a Trojan horse of a GPS tracker, where a whole lot of rights when it comes to rider data is also coming into play here, which Kayla, you wrote a piece about over the weekend.
Yeah, I mean Trojan horse, a proxy war, like whatever sort of military analogy you want to use here. It felt to me like when I first saw it, I was like, oh, this is essentially teams putting their heels in and saying, no, we own this bit of pro cycling. Essentially, we own the right, and we exclusively own the right to put stuff on riders' bikes and take the data off of it, and then potentially monetize that data. I did speak with a couple of different folks about this. The one who was sort of most willing to speak on it, as is often the case, was Jonathan Vaughters, who's sort of, obviously like kind of the big boss above both the men's and women's teams over at EF now. Ezra Trump is running the actual women's team. But yeah, Vaughters said that it wasn't entirely that, which I don't know how much I believe him on that one. It's not a massively lucrative thing, right? The ability to sell this data is not like it's making the teams a ton of money. But it does kind of underlie Velon's original purpose, which was to find ways to monetize, the bits of the sport that teams do control. And one of them historically has been, this data, which they can then sell to broadcasters and all the rest. And there's a whole sort of, remember the kerfuffle around radios, for example, and whether the radio transmission should be able to be used during the Tour de France and broadcast, and how some teams said no, and then the teams are actually getting paid for that, a nominal sum, but still getting paid something for it. This is all kind of an extension of the same debate, really. What kind of surprises me is that both sides dug their heels in so firmly, right? And as your piece on Sunday, Abby, pointed out, that like the real losers here were the riders. Like they just get stuck in the middle of the teams refusing to back down, except for AG Insurance maybe, and the UCI refusing to back down, and in the middle is a whole bunch of athletes who, some of them are probably like coming down off the back of a peak for the Tour de France, but some of them are probably really focused on this race and intent on doing well, and it's part of a calendar for them, and plus all the travel to and from. You miss a bunch of training days. You don't actually get to race. It's a nasty thing for the riders themselves, and no good for the race organizer. And it's not like race organizers are rolling in cash in pro cycling either. All of a sudden, their race, they've lost a bunch of the marquee names that are supposed to be in this thing, all over something that nobody has fully explained to me to this day why it is so important, right? Because if we believe the teams,
Yeah.
it's not purely because of the monetization stuff. They mentioned other things like liability around, okay, well, the UCI wanted us to mount these things. What happens if one falls off and hurts somebody? Like there's some sort of other things that are going on there. And then on the UCI side, why insist on this bit of technology instead of the Velon trackers that have existed in the sport for a couple of years now and have sort of been used and been vetted and were actually used at the Tour de Suisse not that long ago? Neither side seems to be reasonable in this.
Yeah, I think like a couple of the biggest things for me is that the organizers, this is only the 4th edition of the Tour de Romandie, don't really have that many of these smaller World Tour stage races. It's only the 4th edition, and Elise Chabi, who eventually won the race, said that the organizers are in a spot of bother when it comes to funding. So for the race to have this all happen there, like they got I guess no media is bad media, but it was still not a great outcome for their race to lose so many riders. 30 riders were disqualified in the end. When it comes to the riders themselves, there was varying degrees of understanding from the riders that I spoke with over the weekend. Some riders, their teams basically didn't tell them anything about what was happening except that they were disqualified and that they had to go to the start to be formally disqualified. Some teams were fully informed by their teams about everything that was going on preceding the situation. So there was really a lot of different takes on the whole thing based on which team the rider was on that I was speaking with. All of the riders are in support of a safer sport. I don't think that is should be in question at all. And the fact that most of the riders who understood what was going on were supportive of their team's decision to stand up to the UCI says a lot about how the UCI have been throwing their weight around lately. And I think that this is not about GPS trackers at the end of the day. It has nothing to do with the GPS trackers, but this was really the straw that broke the camel's back, because especially when it comes to the women's peloton, there's been various rules thrown into play this year that will be like implemented next year that have a huge impact on the women's peloton, like the handlebar rule that was talked about earlier in the season that is going to have a massive impact on a lot of the women's well-beings that was not taken into consideration when they made the rule. And this was just another instance where the UCI was implementing a rule without any consent from the riders or the teams. And I think that was a large part of why the teams reacted the way that they did. And I think there's a lack of understanding in the greater cycling community about that this isn't about GPS trackers. And from talking to the riders themselves, I mean, there were riders who were at this race, like take Gaia Riolini, for example, who hasn't really raced at all this year. She was 3rd last year at Tour de Romandie, and she was coming into this race as really like hoping to get a huge result after not being able to race the Giro or the Tour. There were riders that came out of the Tour relatively disappointed who, wanted to show what they could do at this race and weren't able to. There are riders who are up for contract, and this is their last chance of the season, because now all we have left is one hilly one day in France and the CMAC Ladies Tour, and that's it. Oh, and the Chinese races, but those are for sprinters. So very different type of rider looking for a contract there. So it's really like, the whole thing has many, many layers, and none of them taste very good. It's like if you've ever had there's this Latvian dish that's like layers of like pickled herring, boiled eggs, beets, and it is disgusting. And it's like that.
You could say that now that you're not in Latvia anymore.
Yes.
And I assume Tom's isn't around.
He's not here, no.
Yeah, it's like a weird.
You're really
when I was chatting with Vaughters, and this is mostly over text message. He mentioned the fact that he was actually expecting. I think I quoted him on this in the story, that he was expecting the UCI to back down, that he was telling the team like up until 5 minutes ahead of time, like they'll let you race. So it feels to me like it was just like a weird game of chicken that everyone ended up losing, basically. Like both the teams and the UCI thought the other one would be like, fine. It's like it's just a GPS tracker. Like, what are we doing here? Why are we preventing all these athletes from doing their jobs? And in the end, neither one did. So we end up with this situation. Yeah, where a bunch of riders get stuck in the middle, and the race organizer gets stuck in the middle. One last question for you, Abby, before we wrap this one up. We talk a fair amount on this pod about like riders unions and the power of them, or the potential power of them. And the women's peloton, I would say, has a stronger union of sorts, the TCA, than the men's side does. More active at the very least. Do you know if there was any discussion of like the whole peloton not racing? Because like the sort of collective action side of that would be like, okay, well, if you're going to prevent 30 of our colleagues from starting for some stupid reason, then we're not racing either. Was there any discussion of that?
Yeah, if only it had been that simple. I think that, well, one of the riders that I talked to over the weekend said that this would have never happened at a men's race, that they never would have tried this at a men's race, but also they know that the women's peloton can have varying degrees of unity. And I think that's one of the reasons why all the teams that ended up standing up against it were disqualified, that stood up against it and were disqualified were because they were Velon teams. So they had they already had like a mutual table that they could all come to. And so they were more organized when it came to stepping up against the UCI than the other teams. But there were other teams in the race that needed this race. Uno X Mobility needs the points. Volker Vessels needs the points. There was a small Swiss team in the race that this would have been their only World Tour race of the year. So they never would have said, no, we're not gonna do this. So yeah, and the Cyclist Alliance, the riders union that is separate from the UCI, that's not the CPA, which is attached to the UCI, so is conflict of interest there. But the Cyclist Alliance released a statement earlier today, Monday, as we're recording, and I'll talk about it in the newsletter coming out on Tuesday, because it was too late to include in the rider piece that I wrote on Sunday. But they said that we're all part of the same project trying to make the sport safer, and in this instance there was no cooperation, collaboration, or communication from all parties, from the UCI or from the teams. And I think there just wasn't. It'd be like trying to unify a high school, trying to get all of the teams on board. Like talk to the geeks, talk to the band kids, talk to the popular kids, talk to the theater kids, and try to get them all to decide on something. And it's just that is never going to happen. So it's much the same in the women's peloton in either peloton. I don't think if it had happened in the men's peloton, I also don't think that all the teams would have stood up against the UCI.
No, absolutely not. You can't trust the band kids anyway. So
no, they're really sketchy.
Any band kids on this podcast right now?
I mean, I'm from the UK, so it's difficult
to. Well, thank you, Abby. I think that was as tight as we could talk about that particular story. I think that's one we will continue to talk about for some time.
Well,
go check it.
You can hear about 40 minutes of this talk on the Wheel Talk podcast on Tuesday.
I was just gonna plug it. So head on over and get even more insight into everything that went down over on Wheel Talk this week. And go check out the written stories. We put one up on Friday, one on Saturday, and one on Sunday around this particular story. And the reason we did that, because I got a DM from somebody that's like, "Why are you spending so much time talking about this?" It's because of the Trojan horse, as Lauren put it, right? It's a bigger story than it appears to be, even, and just that many riders getting disqualified alone is a big story. But the sort of the fact that you've got these other tensions going on behind the scenes between major stakeholders, and as we head into next season, where a lot of these other safety things are going to be coming into play, and all that, like who gets to control this stuff, does matter for the sport. And this was sort of the first time it's really come to a head, and I don't think it's the last time that we're going to see it come to a head. So that's why it's a fascinating story to us. Abby, thank you so much for joining us. As always, head over and check out the Wheel Talk podcast. Abby, adios.
Thanks so much for having me.
You're very welcome. If only I sounded like Scott Simon. That'd be much better. All right, we'll be right back with a Vuelta preview. Welcome back, everybody. We will be discussing what groups we were in high school in After Dark today. Obviously. Kid, it was your idea, so I don't know.
Yes, well, I mean, I don't know what I want to hear because I've got an idea of where it might take us, but I'm intrigued.
Intrigued. I think everybody should be intrigued, and I think you should become a member right now. escapecollective.com/join to find out who we were in high school. Let's get into our Vuelta a España preview. All right, we're gonna. So Dane, 15 to 25 minute monologue. Go.
Oof.
Okay. No, I'm kidding. We're not going to do that to the people.
Yeah. All right. Good.
Let's start with a route preview. So let's just pretend, for the sake of argument, that I haven't looked at anything.
Yeah. You've because I know you have. I know you're completely well versed on everything that's going to happen at this.
Purely for the sake of
pretend.
We're pretending.
Yes.
Where does it start? Actually, I know where it starts. It starts in Italy. Where does it go? What are the key bits?
Well, first off, the fact that it starts in Italy, I think, is kind of interesting. Like, you tend to get Grand Tour starts in places that don't have Grand Tours. I feel like, but Italy gets its own. But anyway, starting in Turin, Torino, they're going to spend 3 days there in Italy, and as usual for the Vuelta, as usual for basically not the Tour, we're going to get interesting GC action probably pretty early on. Even in the very second stage, there's a summit finish. It's not like it's the hardest climb in the race or anything, but it will not take long for there to be some GC action. So yeah, we've got 3 days in Italy. They're going to then head west. There's a team time trial on stage 5, which we get fewer and fewer of those nowadays, and I kind of hate them, but that's fine. This one in Figueres will have nary a climb on the profile, so it will probably be a one where I think the big teams are gonna. There's some good. We'll get to this in a bit, but the teams that are good have some big engines, and I would imagine they're gonna really put a lot of time into the lesser teams in this TTT. Like, I'm thinking Visma and UAE are gonna put, I don't know, the Burgos BH guys pretty far in their rearview mirror in this team time trial. Right. So there's that, and then. Again, in this first week, there's plenty of climbing. There's stage 6 and stage 7. Both have really hard finishes. And then another summit on stage 9, because at the Vuelta, we just don't get flat, boring sprint stages. Certainly not back-to-back ones like we sometimes get at the Tour.
One of my issues with these with the Grand Tours that start somewhere else is they always it often results in a really long first week.
Yeah.
Just a big old gap of hard bicycle racing, and we don't get. When's the first rest day?
Earlier than at the Tour de France.
Exactly.
It's one day earlier though.
But that's how it always is.
A lot.
But so you basically you have a 9-stage stage race, harder than Paris-Nice, right? Longer than Paris-Nice, and then you finally get a rest day. And then you still have to do 2 more weeks of racing.
Well, good. Let's tire them out. Let's make it interesting.
But the first weekend, second stage 2 and 3, we're not going to get into nitty gritty of every stage, but the stage 2 and 3 are only 160 and 140 kilometers.
That's easy. No problem.
But that's short for the first week of a Grand Tour.
And the team time trial is practically a rest day.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's only 20
for everyone except 2 or 3 teams.
Yeah. Well, but even if you're racing it, it's super intense. But
ideally,
in terms of overall physical load. Relatively. Anyway, I was just complaining about it.
Okay.
I there's been so much of this in recent years. So many races starting in places that are not their own country, and I really liked the Lille start of the Tour this year. And I have decided, kind of for no real purpose, that I don't like foreign Grand Departs anymore.
I can buy that. I do think starting in Italy, which really isn't that far away, helps. It's not like there's the giant transfer. It's not that far from the Italian Alps to.
It's not a small transfer though.
It's not small, but it's about the same. I mean, they make decent sized transfers all the time in Grand Tours, and particularly when they decide they're going to finish in some city that's far away from wherever they've been on stage 20.
Is it just me, or is the Vuelta particularly bad at this? Because the Tour
transfers?
lately
Yeah.
The Tour lately has been trying to make it a bit more of an A to B, not all the time, obviously, but slightly more. I mean, last year in particular, had that big old kind of Vichy line up through the middle of France.
Well, I think they've done a good job this year, actually, with making it. We'll get here. We can to dive back into it. They do direct themselves sort of in a loop that gets back towards Madrid, so they don't have this thing where they're going to go stage 20 somewhere that's really far from Madrid, and then they got to somehow get down there. That's not going to happen this year, so that's good. Into the second week. So after this
tangent, sorry.
Plenty of action in the first week. Second week heads to sort of north central Spain, and that's where, in my humble opinion, all the good climbs are. Most of them, at least, like Angliru's up there in Asturias, and they are going to go up Angliru this year. I feel like that's the big question every year: is are they going to do Angliru? And they are. That's stage 13, which is actually kind of early. Like, it's not going to be.
It's not the Queen stage.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it might still be.
It's not stage 20.
Right. Yeah. It might be. I don't know. It's hard. I feel like it's kind of hard to say because there are some other harder stages, or other hard stages in this race.
It will be in the conversation. There will be some
of
our colleagues using the words Queen stage before the last weekend.
Etapa de Reina. I think there's a stretch of stages where you've got 12, 13, 14. They're all really hard, and then more. Again, it's the Vuelta. It's what you expect from the Vuelta. Every stage has some climbs.
It's a lot of up.
And then the final week, they head south from the northern coast. They head sort of into just the Meseta Central. And there's a time trial, an individual time trial, relatively flat on stage 18. That is going to be a big one, I think. That's going to have a pretty big impact on the GC. And then the last big GC day will be stage 20, which climbs the Bola del Mundo, which is a giant mountain relatively close to Madrid. It's a 12.5K climb at 8.5% average. It's a brute.
Goes up to almost 2,300 meters.
Yeah, it's a big one. And that's the penultimate stage. That's seen some, entertaining. Well, I say this historically, the winners of the Bola del Mundo stage have they've had their issues with performance enhancers in the past. So
I've had help.
Hopefully this time, Denis Menchov won there. Ezequiel Mosquera won there and then immediately tested positive for something. So this year, hopefully that will not happen.
I feel good about it.
Yeah.
Question. I'm just looking up. I was just, for those who are watching on YouTube, you will have seen my eyes wandering as you were talking about those stages, because I was checking to see what the overlap between the Vuelta route and the current fire situation in Portugal and Spain is, and there is quite a lot of overlap. Has there been any discussion of this? Have you seen anything of this? Because let me tell you, as somebody who lives in a place that catches on fire somewhat frequently, there's one like 40 miles from me right now. If the wind is blowing the right direction, it's all good. If the wind is blowing the wrong direction, you're talking AQIs and easily in the 150, 250 kind of range, and you can't really race in that. Like, it's really, really unhealthy. And so I'm just wondering if there has been any discussion around, because in particular, there's these big fires in near Ponferrada, Monforte de Lemos. I'm not going to say that in the correct Spanish accent. Which is there's literally there's a stage.
Nailed it. That was fine.
There's a stage finish in Monforte de Lemos.
Yeah.
So it's if these fires are not basically under control in the next 2 weeks, that could be really ugly, or there could be new fires at that point, right?
Yeah, I haven't seen a ton of discussion of it. The bright side of it, the good thing is that as they're making their way over in that direction is the latter half of the race. So hopefully there is time to get things under control. Because, as you said, if not, then once they get into Asturias and then in that area, then you're going to have this risk. Like the stages, basically 14 onward, there or thereabouts maybe, there is that risk. But that is 2.5 weeks away.
For those watching on YouTube, I just pulled up the European Commission fire map. So these are all small fires, and then the bigger ones are the bigger fires. And there's a stage finish right here. There's a stage finish right here. There's a stage finish right here. It's a bad situation right now. And I know this is something that Europe has dealt with a bit over the years, but is not sort of as prepared for, perhaps, as the American West, where we've been dealing this sort of thing for decades. I hope they can get it under control, because otherwise, I'll tell you right now, you're going to have canceled stages in the last week of the Vuelta because you can't race in that. You absolutely cannot race if you're 30K from an active fire that is with the wrong wind direction. So
Billowing
yeah,
smoke
like
and
I hope that I hope the Riders Union is prepared and the UCI is prepared to make potential adjustments because Europe is bearing the brunt of some serious climate change at the moment.
Yeah. Well, hopefully, like you said, hopefully by the time they get there, that will be ample time to deal with some of these fires and
Fingers crossed. All right, so let's talk. Well, before we get off the route, who's it designed for? What type of rider? Give me an example.
Pogacar.
Well, isn't every race?
Every race is
Yeah,
designed for.
I mean, yeah.
Uphill race, downhill race, mountain bike race, all of them.
I would say that if you are a pure climber, this Grand Tour is probably relatively appealing to you. You can rely on your team for the team time trial, and then there's only that one flat TT, as opposed to sometimes you get two flat
And it's
TTs.
late enough that there are beaucoup de climbs before then where you can, get yourself positioned.
Get your big lead. So I think it's like the time trial abilities are less necessary here, even though we do have a very good time trialist as the race favorite and favorites. Actually, all the favorites are pretty good time trialists. But yeah, if you weren't a particularly good time trialist, you could also see yourself maybe having a chance at this Vuelta just because of the fact that you can rely on your team in the team time trial and hopefully get a big lead on Angliru and some of these other really, really hard climbs.
Plus, we get Bob Roll saying "Angry Lou" for at least a day or two.
Oh yeah,
which is just endlessly enjoyable. Let's move on to the major contenders here.
Yeah.
All right, so let's just take a moment. We are just pretending for a second that you're a old school pitchman.
Yeah.
You're a marketing sales genius pitchman. Sell me on La Vuelta.
Yeah.
And who's going to be there?
If you enjoyed the 2023 Vuelta a España, the drama of the 2023 Vuelta a España, boy, have I got a race for you. 2025 Visma Lisa bike sending another squad of heavy hitters, and it could be time for another American to climb a Vuelta podium. Is it going to be Matteo Jorgensen or is it going to be Sepp Kuss? It's hard to say, but one of those two riders could stand on that final podium above Jonas Vingegaard. We've seen it before. We could see it again. I can't wait.
You really took that and ran with it. I appreciate it.
Thanks. Yeah, thank you.
No, but genuinely, okay. So Jonas Vingegaard is going to be there. He's the hot favorite, right?
Yes.
Yes.
It's hard to even look at anybody else at this point. But let's just pretend for a moment that he's not the hot favorite. Who else stands a chance? Or
I
who's a
think
podium
the
contender?
big challenger, as you might expect, is UAE, but it's not Pogacar because he's decided not to go to the race this year, which I'm pretty bummed about. I know a lot of people say, "Oh, well, that'll make the race more exciting," but to me, that's like saying that minor league baseball is exciting because I want the level of riders to be the best. Anyway, he's not there, but there are some really good UAE riders going. You've got Juan Ayuso and you've got Joao Almeida.
Love it.
And
it's going to be great.
both of those riders they've got a history, Again, there's always potential for drama at the Vuelta. With Visma, it's like, are they going to have their shit together and are they going to know what to do if one of the non-Vingegaard riders ends up in red this time?
I think there's absolutely no chance Vingegaard. I think Vingegaard his killer instinct will come out. I think Vingegaard wins this. If one of their, I don't think he's going to let
You're
it go to
underestimating the
somebody
killer instinct of Matteo Jorgensen. Who knows what he's
I
capable
don't see
of.
Jorgensen. Anyway, Kuss more likely maybe. Anyway,
and then on the other side of that is that Ayuso and Almeida, particularly those two, they have a history of, like, if you remember from the Tour de France, watching Almeida gesticulating at Ayuso, maybe not working hard enough. Now they're going to be co-leaders of this UAE team. And UAE, as all listeners will know, yes, they're a great team. They have some extremely talented riders, but when Tadej Pogacar is not there for them, they've made some blunders. There has been some intra-team drama. You may recall from the Giro that they snatched
Lost.
defeat from the jaws of victory.
Yes, they handed the pink jersey over to Visma on a silver
to
platter.
Visma. Yes, it was spectacular. So I am hopeful for some kind of drama like some of that. And I think the hardness of the race, and it is a hard one, helps increase the potential for drama. It's hot. Everyone's going to be on the limit. It's the last race. There's always the air of desperation, which makes the Vuelta even more entertaining. And yeah, I'm hoping that we'll get some of that drama. But I think it's going to answer your original question, it's got to be Visma versus UAE. No one else really in the frame. Ben O'Connor erasure there a little bit. Maybe Richard Carapaz.
Jai Hindley?
Sure. Yeah. Why not?
I mean, it's the first Vuelta in freaking ages that Roglic hasn't turned up.
That is true. And, Jai Hindley is a Grand Tour winner.
Yeah.
And
I think Giulio Pellizzari is the most interesting rider on that team.
I will admit that until I dug into the Vuelta a little bit more over the weekend in preparation for having to talk about it today, I thought Roglic was going to be there.
Yeah, so did I.
In the back of my head, it's just,
obviously,
of course he's going to be there. Why would he not be there?
I'm looking forward to seeing Mikel Landa back. Mikel Landa is coming back.
That's a big
he's
one.
He's one of several comeback Spanish speakers, at any rate. He's coming back with a very young Soudal Quickstep team, and it's in the free Landa era already with Evenepoel on his way to Red Bull.
Yeah.
Obviously, Landa, we're not expecting him necessarily to be at the very top of his game because he's coming back from broken vertebrae. But he has raced already at was it Burgos, and did fine. So that would be really interesting to see. I'm always interested to see what Egan Bernal can do. He's been doing great this season, continuing the upward trajectory, but not really had that big win yet. So whether that's a stage win or the KOM or top 5, I don't know. Then that would be awesome to see. And Carapaz is also, he went to the Giro desperate to win the damn thing. And he suffered collateral damage to the UAE situation.
Yeah, he did.
So I think that there's potential for some very interesting. I mean, if everyone comes in great form or Vingegaard has an off day, it could be a very good race, very interesting race.
Bernal's got Ghana on his squad as well. They haven't released the whole team yet, but that's all you need.
And Bernal's not a terrible time trialist.
No, he's not bad.
Yeah. And by the time it gets to stage, what is it, 18? And at that stage in a Grand Tour, only maybe 10, 15 riders are going for the stage. Yeah. So he could, and he's got to last the whole way. So I'm interested to see what he does. What I find quite sad is seeing the Movistar lineup, and this weekend they revealed that Quintana, who, I don't really know what to think about Quintana in his renaissance. But with Mas also out after his thrombophlebitis, an issue in his thigh. Their team it's a stage hunting team.
And even then
it's Pablo Castrillo, 2-time stage winner last year.
2 wins last year, yeah.
And then Javier Romo, who won that stage at the Tour Down Under. It's a decent team, but it's not. It kind of looks like a Spanish Conti team, Pro Conti team.
Yeah, they've already got a couple of those at this race. Who will be there? A big storyline to follow all race long is Tom Pidcock.
Yeah, who didn't really want to be there. I don't think. I think he's being fed lines.
Oh, interesting.
Do you remember after the Giro, he said, "I don't think I'm going to go to the Vuelta."
Maybe he's changed his mind.
Well, obviously.
Yeah.
He's either changed his mind or somebody said, "Tom, we got the wild card because of you, so you're jolly well going to the Vuelta."
Yeah,
but he has been riding into some form, so.
He's also literally never looked like he's having any fun at any Grand Tour I've ever seen. This is very
true.
That.
Yeah.
So,
and he's going for a GC.
He did say when he moved teams, that he was still interested in being a GC rider, and the team and he have said ahead of this race that he wants that.
I sometimes wonder.
I think his agent. I think his agent is interested in him being a GC rider because that's worth more money.
I think he might want to be. I think he might want to win GC titles, while also maybe not enjoying riding for GC.
He wants to be a GC rider in the vein of Pogacar, but he's just not in that league.
Yeah, maybe so. Yeah.
Because Pogacar wins like. Yeah. Well, except Pogacar can't do that anymore either. But anyway.
There's a lot of things I can think of wanting to do that I don't have the interest in doing the work required to get
I
there.
mean, it's a job
Yeah.
after all. You've got to do some things
Yeah.
you don't want to do.
yeah.
It's true. That's true. Returning to UAE,
Mm.
do we have to pick a favorite?
Ooh.
Like, can the pod get behind one of the two, Almeida or Ayuso? Which do we like more? Because I feel like to get emotionally. See, here's my issue. Here's my issue with those two.
Yeah.
To get emotionally invested in either of them,
Uh-huh.
I have to I gotta pick one. I gotta pick a team. You know,
Yeah.
gotta pick a team within the team. And let's just hypothetically, we pick Ayuso, and Ayuso has an issue. Ayuso has a flat, and Almeida goes to the front, pins it.
Yeah.
I want to feel personally
Yeah,
aggrieved
yeah.
by this.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, sure.
So
Or
we gotta
laughing
pick one.
as Almeida goes off and wins the race.
Yeah, or the other way around. If
Yeah.
we pick Almeida, it would be like, yeah, well, we shouldn't have gotten a flat then, right? Should probably hit
And
something. Probably his
The
fault.
other dimension of this is that UE. I'm waiting for UE to say stop asking us about Ayuso's contract, because Ayuso, we haven't heard anything since Ayuso hired an agent, a lawyer, to discuss the potential getting out of his contract. So this whole Vuelta and the Ayuso Almeida dynamic has got that sort of undercurrent bubbling behind, which I love, to be quite honest. But and also if you look at Movistar's team sheet, you think Ayuso should be over there. Anyway,
Yeah.
but yeah, so I don't know. Yeah, it's a funny one.
So which do we pick, or do we mix it up?
I'm on the Ayuso train. No surprise there, right?
Yeah.
Dane's and Ayuso. So I'll take Almeida.
Yeah, I mean, I'm going with Kaylee, I'm afraid. I'm going with Almeida.
Fair enough. Yeah.
You got to add a little jeopardy like that, right? You gotta add a little-
We'll see how we are.
Well, speaking of which, we just kicked off the Vuelta Fantasy Leagues over on Escape Collective. So if you just open up Escape, there's a little button at the top, join the fantasy, and pick your rider every day. And if I could, I'd pick Almeida every day, but I can't. You have to pick a new rider every day, and see if you can topple myself or Dane. It would have been easy to topple me at the tour because
No, me too. Yeah.
I was working way too much and kept forgetting. But, I'm not at the tour this time, so I feel like I could probably stay on top of it.
I did the old, pick Merlier for stage 1, pick Philipsen for stage 3, reversal problem, and then it was over after.
It was all over. Yeah. It's all over from there.
I would suggest picking Ayuso in particular early. The guy has a bit of a history of not finishing. He's 50-50 finishing Grand Tours thus far in his young career. I mean, it's young, but yeah.
Picking
Do you
for
think
the
he's more
team
likely
contrails
to
is interesting.
Yeah.
Sorry,
Do you think Ayuso is more likely to leave UAE if he finishes the Vuelta or if he doesn't?
I feel like if he finishes and maybe wins the Vuelta, I think he stays. I feel like
it'll cost more to get out of the contract.
Just because I think that the team dynamic, as weird as it is, I think he's a smart guy and understands that he's as good a chance at UAE as he has anywhere else. And if he can win his
Better
home
than at
Grand
Movistar,
Tour,
probably.
Say that again.
Better than at Movistar, probably.
Yeah. I mean, I can't think of anywhere where he have a better chance of actually winning stuff.
No.
It's
It's
the
just
Tim
that
Wellens. It's the Tim Wellens thing, right?
Oh, yeah.
Why would you go somewhere else to get probably similar results when you can win, your
stage.
the Renouille Tour in Wellens' case, and a stage at a Tour de France or whatever, whenever you want. I mean, they're that good. I mean, unless Ayuso really thinks of himself as being able to beat Tadej Pogacar, which, hey, maybe he does.
I think the problem for Ayuso, and this is going a bit too deep probably now, is that there are so many other riders on that team, including Isaac Del Toro, who's a tiny bit younger than him, that are just going to be so much better than him in 6 months.
Maybe. Yeah.
Rough. All right, well, Dane, Team Ayuso. Kit, Kaylee, we are Team Almeida. I just referred to myself in the third person, which felt weird. Let's, on that weirdness, let's take a quick break. When we come back, we do have a couple news hits from the week, and then we're headed to After Dark. Welcome back, everybody. Did you know Tadej Pogacar gave his teammates one of
This
those
is a
green
news
egg...
hit?
Huh?
That's a news hit. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, 100%. Have you listened to this podcast before, Kit? Are you
This
aware?
is 4 years old.
Kaylee, explain what this green egg thing is, because I had to look it up.
I will do almost anything to stop previewing the Vuelta, and this is one of them.
Okay.
So this popped up in a podcast that TJ Van Garderen and I think Brent Bookwalter do
I think it's Bookwalter,
for
yeah.
NBC.
Do they wear ties and suits for it?
God, I hope so. I have said this before. I really like both those guys. I like TJ. I definitely like Brent Bookwalter. Like he's genuinely a super nice guy. I probably chatted with him more than TJ Van Garderen during his career, including a great chat at the Rio Olympics. Anyway, I really like them. I think NBC ruins them more often than not. So I've never listened to this podcast. I kind of want to now because they're both pretty chatty, amicable guys, and I wonder if they're like kind of let loose a little bit on a pod. Anyway, popped up this week on this podcast a story that actually came to TJ via Brandon McNulty, which is that Tadej Pogacar gave all of his teammates after the 2021 Tour de France one of those kind of cult green egg barbecues, which for those who have no idea what I'm talking about, this is like, hold on, how expensive?
It was a craze a few years ago.
Yeah,
it was a kind of social media. They swept social media.
They're like $2,000. They're really expensive. They're just these sort of like big hunk of, I don't know, iron or something, and they're like combination. They're like slow cook something. The ultimate barbecue grill.
They were the rice
by the
cookers
way.
of 2021.
Yeah, the ultimate barbecue grill / smoker maintains precise temperature control for succulent, tender meat. Find a dealer near you. That is what I'm reading off the website. Normally, a rider, usually it's a watch. You usually get some other kind of present when you've helped a rider.
What's funny is that looking at the team sheet is that there are only 2 teammates left.
Huh?
Only 2 of the team that were there are currently with UAE. It's not that long ago.
So apparently the green egg was not
didn't
successful in
is it 2? Is it 3?
Reducing teammate churn. I like to imagine, like, I think was McNulty apparently said, told TJ as part of this story that he lives in an apartment somewhere and has no room for like a multi-100-pound, like, it's like
they're really heavy.
They're like 80 kilos or something like that, ceramic green smoker egg. But I want to get to the bottom of the story. Maybe we'll send Ian after it at some point. I want to know, like, how did he come up with this? How do you come up with?
I think he went on Instagram.
He was like scrolling Instagram and saw one. And was like, I'm going to buy these for everybody.
These were the thing a few years ago in 2021 with track. I remember seeing them all over the place. And then there were those pizza oven things, the little.
Oh yeah.
That was probably what they got if he did one of 2022. That's what they've got the year after. And then last year it had been a rice cooker or an air fryer. And
air fryer's hot. Yeah.
Air fryers is that's this year.
Yeah, I keep
And the
forgetting
Richard DeMille watch, whatever. That's not who he was sponsored by, is it? Or is it?
No,
Richard
it is.
Mille. Yeah.
Richard Mille.
Yeah.
I keep
DeMille
forgetting that
is
we're also on
something else.
YouTube, and so therefore I can pull up
you
websites
should
and show
actually
people.
Advertise it. Does this mean we get a free one?
The two. Well, did they get the 2XL, the XL, the large, the medium, the small? We don't know what size they got because all the way down to $700 if you get the small one, $2,600 if you get the big one.
That's a hard thing to send someone too. Like, it's not like a watch where you can just like give it around the table at the last dinner. Like, you got to send this to Belgium. Like, what? How?
Yeah, impossible to send anything to Belgium.
I mean, the branding is just like everything's green. It's kind of genius.
Green egg.
It's kind of genius. Anyway, just bringing you that tidbit.
It's
from podcast to podcast, a game of podcast telephone.
Debatable news, but
not
it's fun.
It's a good little tidbit. The other news this week. This is actually this morning, Monday morning. Mike Woods has announced that he is retiring, and it's kind of a shame. He's 38 years old, so not surprising. I think people maybe forget that he's 38 years old because he didn't start bike racing until he was 25, and he. Actually, I wrote this story for Cycling Tips back in the day. I think it was 2019? I think it was 2019. Anyway, he became the first human to run a sub 4-minute mile and finish the Tour de France. I think in 2019. 2021, something like that.
19.
19. There we go. I knew it was in the back of my head somewhere. And he's also just like a genuinely super nice guy and really eloquent. And I don't know if anybody caught his blogs that he was doing throughout the Tour de France. Really well done. Unfortunately, literally the only interaction I had with him the entire Tour de France this summer was he was rolling down the hill to his bus on the same day that we cornered Dave Brailsford. So I had other things on my mind. And so the only thing I said to him was, like, as he was sort of going past me to get on his bus, I was just told him that I loved that the blogs were really good. And I never actually got to talk to him throughout this entire tour, which now I'm kind of bummed about because it was his last one and he's retiring and he's going to be off to greener pastures. He mentioned in his sort of goodbye letter thing that pro cycling had taken a significant toll on his health. He didn't go into any details on that, but that was sort of listed as one of the reasons why he was hanging up his wheels. We don't know mental health, physical health, but it's a hard sport, so neither would surprise me, to be honest.
Be nice to see him at I think he's going to finish his season at the Canadian One Days, which makes a lot of sense. It'll be good to see. I'm sure he'll get a good send off.
Yeah, they do a great job with the Canadian riders there. I think I've said this on the pod before, but even when it was Hugo Hull and Antoine Duchesne, they would treat them like they were megas. All of the promotional stuff, it would be like Greg Van Avermaet, Peter Sagan, and Antoine Duchesne. So with Mike Woods, hopefully he'll get the similar amount of treatment. And he, no disrespect to Antoine or Hugo, Mike Woods is maybe
Hugo is still active, Dane. So
higher caliber rider, maybe getting this treatment this time. So hopefully he gets that good send off.
That'll be good to see.
Yeah, I mean he's really won some serious stuff. Won 3 stages of the Vuelta.
3 Vuelta stages.
Won a Tour stage in 23. It's been second at Liège. Super strong rider. I remember I was at the Tour of Utah. Tour California, one of the early races for him, when he had first started. And again, he was 26, 27 years old at this time, and got picked up by Vaughters because he raced for Cannondale out of the back of Optum. I forget exactly what it was. One of the American races, and he was kind of about to win it. It looked like he was about to win it, and he just totally binned it in the last corner, and you could just tell that he had all the fitness in the world, right? A sub 4 miler is truly elite aerobic system, right? There's a reason why he could go straight from that to professional bike racing, but just couldn't get himself around a corner at that point. And he has definitely come a long way. He's come a long way. He's a very good bike racer at this point, and made a great career for himself. And we just like Mike Woods.
Yeah,
so
easy to like.
Chapeau.
Popular winner whenever he does.
Popular winner. Chapeau, Mike. We'll miss you around the peloton. I hope he sticks around in some capacity. He's like I said, he's a phenomenal writer. I feel like I'm going to reach out to him, ask if he wants to write a blog for us or something like that, because it's just really, really good stuff. He had great stuff to say throughout the tour. If you haven't checked that stuff out, go do so. That's all. I think it's time to wrap up.
I think in Ronan's absence, we should mention the result of the Vuelta one-day race this weekend.
Oh, we should.
Rory Townsend.
Yeah,
he is looking blankly at the screen.
Rory Townsend stunning a pretty darn good field.
It was really good, and it was a good race as well. The last 50k or something. It's probably why it ended the way it did, with the breakaway still up front. Arno Deli was getting involved. Jonas Abramson, Matthias Vatek, who's a great rider at Little Trek, and all sorts of really big hitters were getting involved. Paul Magnier as well in the attacks off the front of the peloton. It meant that the peloton was pretty small by the time they were chasing them down in the finale. And then Rory got a lead out from Nelson Oliveira, I think, from Movistar, into the finishing straight, launched 500 metres to go. And he said in his post-race interview that he just got into the aero tuck and just kept going and just grin and bear it. He finished about 6 feet ahead
back, right?
of Arno Deli.
Yeah. Not a single peek back.
Yeah. And that's why you get in the breakaway. That's why the every day there's a fight, because you never know. Maybe one at a time, 100 times you might make it.
One of our members on Discord pointed this out, and I think this is, obviously this is true, but it's worth saying out loud that it's just more fun.
You
just muted yourself.
Or pull the plug out.
Cable something break.
Am I back?
Yeah,
you are back. Hello.
Weird. One of our members on Discord mentioned, and I think this is self-evident, but it's a good point. It's just more fun
It's so much more fun.
to cheer for the breakaway. Like, it's just way more fun when that happens. And I think one of the best things about pro cycling is that does happen every once in a while, right? It's what, for me, separates pro cycling from other endurance sports is days like that, right? Because if you just lined up all of them and they all time trialed the entire course, Rory Townsend's not winning. He's not. Like, just a straight Watts contest, he's not winning. But managed to win that way. And that's pro bike racing. That's the best.
And it's a huge win for him and for his team, Q36.5.
Yeah.
Hopefully we'll see him at the Vuelta.
I think it's time for us to wrap up. Congrats to Rory Townsend. But we should wrap up. We're gonna discuss two things in After Dark. One, I am going to go on a small rant about cycling media talking about post-tour crits like they're actual bike races. Really, the rant doesn't go much further than that, to be honest. That's it. And then we're also going to talk about who we were in high school, obviously. And then we will wrap it up for the day. So if you are not a member, head to escapecollective.com/join, sign up right now, and then you get to stick around. If you are a member, then you do get to stick around. Otherwise, we'll see you on Friday. See you then.